We need the
Bomgia from an airport in Kazan. We are exiting this dump plot now. It hasn't quite lived up to expectations. It's been we made the classic mistake of not listening to the guy on the ground, an English guy who's actually been giving us very, very solid advice the entirety of the trip.
Yeah,
and we kind of went rogue, came to Kazan, but it was a stupid move. We just didn't research it. It's been fun, but not as good as it has been. It's a big university city. It's reliant on that student population. So the verdict for Kazan is don't come unless it's in university time, which would be up to the end of May or after mid-September.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably quite fun during those periods, and actually autumn, it could be quite rocking, I would have thought, when people are back and when the bars are all full and everything like that. But it wasn't, like I said, it was our fault. It was a snap decision, probably not researched very well, very properly. And but it's, we've had some good times, had some fun.
We've had some good times, we've had some bad times.
We've had some near disasters.
We've had some hilarious times, which we can probably go into on a different... Damn it. It should be 120 for that, 180. Anyway, today we thought we'd talk about something that's been on our mind for a while, hasn't it? And just kind of, we're not the PUA police. We don't feel the need to clean up an unregulated industry.
PUAs.
We're not PUAs. But there's a number of topics we had a thought about. It was kind of tongue in cheek, wasn't it? But then we thought, actually, because it is an unregulated industry and there's no gold standard for any of this stuff, it is worth giving our tin on just kind of the issues we see with old school PUAs and dating coaches and anyone really operating in the space giving men's dating advice.
Yeah, men's dating advice.
And again, just be aware, this is our opinion. This isn't the gospel, right?
Nobody's got the gospel. That's one of the points.
That's one of the points, right? This is just our opinion. Guys who are actually out there traveling the globe. You've seen the live streams. You've seen we're approaching. You've seen we're living this lifestyle, right? Which puts us in a small minority of guys, in my opinion, actually teaching this stuff in the first place. But again, this isn't a session try and blow our own trumpet. It's more of a kind of problems we see with the industry as a whole. I'm sure you guys will appreciate this is probably some reasonable audio as well for the first time ever. Morning, Dave. Line up questions about this stuff on the side, and if it's kind of there's enough kind of buy-in, then we can do a kind of part two.
Yeah.
But this is addressed more at guys who are working in this industry and giving advice and dishing it out.
We may have to rush through some of this as well, actually.
How long we got?
Well,
that's our gate, isn't it?
Yeah. But it closes at 10 past anyway, so we got a while. Yeah.
Right, anyway, without further ado,
let's crack into it.
Number one, and these are in not order of prevalence, by the way. They're all equally important, but just to make that point. So number one we've got on our list, thinking game solves all problems.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've always banged on about this, but the guys I learned from, very high quality game advice. But part of the reason I believe they had to develop their game skills to the max was they weren't focused on the other things, the other areas which are blatantly obvious in kind of now we're in this, which is building some financial acumen, having money, figuring out looks, status, living an interesting reality, all these other factors, almost operating as game like this miniature kind of
getting caught in its own space,
caught up in the wave of like the book game and mystery being cool. And thinking being a pickup maestro, pickup master solves all problems. But it really doesn't, does it?
It really doesn't. You need the other things. And to be fair, that's where some of the so-called red pill influencers actually have come into their own. Because don't want to go into massive definitions and things here, but it seems to me that you've got guys who are, they may be red pill aware, but they are fundamentally, they're giving advice about game and dating. So you've got those guys. Then you've got these red pill guys. And the red pill guys tend to be more holistic. And they will talk about money, muscles, game. They'll talk about chase excellence and really bossing it in your life. And I think that's a very healthy thing. And I mean, the red pill comes in for a lot of stick from various quarters. But I think one thing that they do get right is that they say, look, it's not just about chasing around women, and it's not just about learning great verbal game. You've got to have the value as well. You've got to build that value. And in some of this sort of the older sort of just the game quarter of the internet, we don't really see that emphasis on self-improvement so much, and I think that is a bad thing.
Yeah, and I mean, Mark Manson talks about it in his book Models. He said the only real dating advice is self-improvement. Game skills can only take you so far, can't they?
Yeah.
It's...
Yeah, I mean, you can have, tight game or whatever. But if you were in a club like we were the other night, that Atlas place with very high quality, high value women in there and high value guys as well, and you're wearing your sort of Primark jeans and you're spitting some lines that you learn off the internet, then you might get a bit of attention, but it's not going to take you really where you want to go. And certainly for anything longer term, I mean, God forbid, trying to get into some kind of relationship with one of these women.
Especially if your end goal is eventually to have kids and stuff, and build a family, you need money. You want to give your kids a decent education, live in a decent house. Probably the woman's not going to be working. You can't just be one of them. And then I'm not sure whether it was a case of guys just getting swept. The guys that came before us getting swept up in this kind of like
the mythology
the mythology of old game servers all problems, but it really fucking doesn't.
No.
As an overall man, you have to be living an interesting reality. Work on life coach yourself, max out the fitness, the fashion, the finances, living an interesting reality. Learn to fight, learn languages, travel.
But I suppose
all this stuff.
I suppose particularly for any age, but certainly for younger people, younger guys watching, it's kind of like you can't just immerse yourself in game. You can't just immerse yourself in dating and expect to have a decent, balanced life. It's just not going to work out.
No, completely agreed.
We got some food arriving now.
We do, but in the
we're trying to eat this while we are streaming.
Should we just do the stream and then eat it?
We could do, yeah. I might have a quick bite. I might have a quick
cheeky pickle for the troops. I agree, and I was fooled by these guys, right? And I'm not discrediting the game advice. I think actually the game advice of the guys that came before me, the guys that I learned from is fucking shit hot. And in terms of understanding the game, social dynamics, they're way better than me. I make no bones about it. But what I bring to the table is more value across other areas, including an understanding of this, seeing it as it is, but also always I've been talking about max the other areas out. Don't be one-dimensional. You need the other stuff. We jokingly talked about the crimson pill, but essentially red pill thinking, so that's striving for excellence, understanding social dynamics, understanding how life works, but alongside that, maxing out looks, money, status, and taking action.
And one element where the black pill guys are correct is that, yes, looks play a part, yes, money plays a part, and yes, status plays a part. And it's stupid to ignore that. It's stupid to just pretend that that's not the case. And if you can just learn some game, or read an ebook or something, then you're going to be able to attract these beautiful, gorgeous, high-value women. It's just clearly nonsense. So you need to, yes, learn the game stuff, learn the social dynamics, but you also need to be working on the other stuff as well at the same time.
Yeah, so I think we've made that point quite clear. Look at it holistically. You live one life. The odds of jokingly being alive from artists is 1 in 400 trillion. Fucking do yourself a favor and max out every area. There's no excuse. Because if you think about Stark's sphere of influence, what can you control? Most of this stuff, the responses you get from women and how they act, arguably you can't control that. But most of the stuff in terms of maxing out your fashion, your fitness, your finances, you can control that. Getting your mental health on point, building that emotional and social intelligence, these are all within your control. If you're ignoring these and just thinking I'm going to become some game guru, you're delusional. And it's going to backfire at some stage in the road. Down the line, you're going to be sitting there going, fuck, I've got nothing. And priorities might change. You might want to have a family, have some kids, and you don't want to be doing that from the position of a fucking pauper.
Yeah.
It's just not sensible.
Indeed.
So that's point number one. Point number two is not practicing what you preach, plus lack of evidence. What do you have to say about that one?
Well, fundamentally, I think if you're teaching this stuff, you need to have some skin in the game.
Agreed.
You need to be out there, and it's not even just from a sort of show pony perspective. It's just that, as we know, the dating world and the social life in general is very dynamic. Things change all the time, and if you've got to be out there and in the thick of it, and and actually interacting with people, interacting with women, to know what's really going on the street, as it were, to know what's really happening currently in the dating world. And we see a lot of people from all sides of this glorious space who will pontificate a lot, but if they're not actually out there interacting with real people, then
how much relevance is it?
How much relevance does it really have?
And just because you've written a book 20 years ago, right? I'm sorry, yeah, great. fair play, success at the time. But life is all about adaptability. It's constantly in a constant state of flux. Things change. Writing a book 20 years ago, and then just kind of relying on that and saying that's still the way. And you sat there, maybe you've got a wife, you haven't approached in 20 years. I'm sorry, it doesn't cut the mustard.
Maybe you've got a brown suit.
Yeah, maybe you're strutting around a conference room, making girls work, whatever it is. It doesn't cut the mustard.
You need to be out there and interacting with people, and
it's fraudulent because you're not taking the action necessary. Because you've got to be living this reality, right? And I always said back in the day, you're re-uploading your infields, right? Anyway, I'm going to be putting out loads more on the live streams and stuff. But I always said, if you're lacking these three things as a dating coach or an influencer in this space, I would be questioning it if I was the client, which is actually you taking action. So if there's no infields, look, I don't morally really agree with infields in the sense that
I'm looking at the way that we do these infields.
We're trying to find loopholes to do it, right? So it's kind of not encroaching on personal rights and stuff. But as it stands, actually showing what you're doing, the fact you're interacting with the opposite sex, getting some sort of result, is something you need to be doing. It doesn't sit right with me morally, but as it stands at the moment, you need it, because it is an unregulated industry. It is an industry of snake oil salesmen. If you don't have infields, if the guy in question doesn't have infields in some format, I'll be fucking questioning what he's up to, because it's very easy to be a talking head, right?
Infield, yeah, absolutely. But also, on top of that, we know people. We know of people in this industry who, in some cases big names, in other cases less well known. We know people who are just not. They're not out there. They're not doing anything.
They're not approaching, and they're charging vast sums of money, and they're not actually living this life remotely. It's like fucking hell.
And it's like, okay, you did it. Maybe they did it 15 years ago. Fair enough,
but it's not relevant now, is it?
But it's not relevant now because the world's changed. We've got TikTok. We've had COVID. We've had it's very, very dynamic, and you need to be out there in the thick of it. So it's like reporting back from the front line, isn't it? And that's
also, we hear, again, no names, but we hear people saying, I train with so and so, big name, and he refused to approach. And you've charged the guys charge him, 2-3K for a week, and the guy's refusing to approach, and he's charged him to teach him approaching. I mean, for me, that doesn't sit right. That's just fraudulent, right? So lack of infields online, big thing. Second thing, lack of client testimonials, guys actually saying on camera, and a number of them, or written, what's up? They've really helped me. I've actually improved, right? And number three is clear evidence of you coaching and showing an improvement in students. So you need that as well, in my opinion. If any of those are missing, or if all three of them are missing, I mean, serious alarm bells, serious red flags, right? So again, we're not calling anyone out here in particular, but I would be, if I was a student looking to buy into this industry, those are three things I'd be looking for. You can always make your own conclusions. You're all fully grown men, but just be warned, be warned. So without further ado, point number 3, crabs in the bucket mentality, stupid infighting.
Well, I mean,
it's just ridiculous to eat these ribs at the same time.
It's like the Homer Simpson stream.
I know.
We've seen over the last year or so, and I guess it's been going on for longer, a lot of very stupid infighting. And people releasing videos and putting out blog posts and things like this, just tearing down other content creators within the space. And I mean, the first thing to say, I suppose, is it's of zero help to the audience. Right? It doesn't matter what we think about big name content creator X or big name content creator Y, or what they think about us. It's this stupid feuding. It's like this 1990s, rap battle, beef kind of thing that can be mildly entertaining if you know the people involved, but it doesn't really offer any real value, because what we're trying to do is, well, basically, I mean, what we're trying to do is live our life and say, look, here's some cool stuff that we've done. Here's an insight into it. There's certain things we can teach you.
Live and let live. People either resonate with it or they don't, but building your business model around slagging people off, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's supposedly tongue-in-cheek, which we all know it's not, it's just a bullshit way to
Yeah,
live.
so
and it just says a lot about the individual. How have they got, because the guys in life that are really bossing it, right? The guys that are actually living life, smashing it, they don't have time to be sitting around online slacking people off. If you build your business strategy on that, it's pathetic because it's a house built on sand. And if you haven't, you put out some legit content, but then you spend the rest of the time slagging people off. It just says a lot about you as the individual.
And often it is this crabs in a bucket thing where it's actually driven by a desire to stop the other content creator, to try to silence the other content creator. Because it's like, well, that person is getting success. I don't like that, so I'm going to slag them off in order to try to pull them back. And for myself, I couldn't really give a monkeys if somebody else has been very successful in terms of writing books about this stuff or coaching or whatever, because abundance mentality, right? I mean, the internet is big enough for everybody, right? We don't need to be putting out videos slagging people off. Those people can go and do their thing. We do our thing, and that's how I would like to leave it, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. So that was point 3, which was crabs in the bucket. Yeah, I mean, again, just go. You think about uber successful people in life, right? Do they have time to be slagging off other people? We know this is a very kind of elitist thing, but your Ronaldo's of the world. Does he have time to be fucking slagging off Messi? No, he doesn't give a monkeys.
He's not as exposed.
The guys who are really bossing it in life, they don't have time to be sitting around fucking trolling people. And again, I just think it illustrates the qualities of a man, right? We live in an age where men aren't really men.
Well, it's amazing. It's amazing. You get people who are quite prominent, and they'll have fake accounts, and they're slagging people off.
It's just bizarre, isn't
it? I mean,
bizarre use of one's time, in my opinion. Point number 4: misogyny and racism. So we're not trying to virtual signal here, but from my experience of going, when I came into this, I brought a bit of business in. I got cheated on by a girl. I brought in a lot of hatred towards girls when I first entered the space, and I banged loads, but didn't leave me feeling happy because I fucked them over. I was deliberately just kind of carrying aggression and bitterness with me.
Yeah.
I kind of solved that problem. I think part of it was going very, very heavily red pill, and a lot of the red pill stuff. And again, like it's a bit like a fucking knife. You can use it for good or for evil. Can't you? Carrero said it, but you can use it to butter bread or stab someone. But I was coming from a position of real bitterness, against women, and what it did is it actually showed up, and you can sense, women can sense it, can't they? You can sense if you don't like women, and it's like a repellent.
It's horrendously damaging.
But it's also like a repellent for if you're trying to improve your dating life.
Well, look, I mean, the first thing to say is fundamentally, misogyny and racism are wrong, and I'm sorry if that offends anybody, but they are. These are not good. These are not good things. These are not good ways. These are not good prisms through which to view the world. And I mean, the whole thing about, they talk about red pill rage sometimes, which is after you've discovered the truth about female sexuality, then you go through this period of rage about the way that females operate and so on and so forth. And we see this in the red pill world. We also see this in the black pill world, by the way. You've got these black pill guys posting TikToks and, oh my God, look at that girl. How can she, act like that? Whatever. There's no point in hating or disparaging somebody for just acting in their nature, right? Because let's face it, all of us, men and women, we all want to get the best deal in life, right? If you're watching this and you're sitting at home married, and some gorgeous Victoria's Secret model in her underwear came in and said, "Listen, I just want to," you'd probably go off with her, right? Because we all want to trade up, we all want to get a good deal. Women and men in that sense, I think, are no different. I think men have less options, or feel they have less options. But hating on women, for a start, it's kind of illogical, right? Because they're just going to do what they're going to do, and you have to look at reality as it is, accept it, and then move on.
Absolutely, and it's not a personal. They're not doing it. Some women are quite dark-eyed. Maybe they're personally out to scream men over. Maybe they've had a raw deal. But as an overarching thing, the way they behave is not. I don't believe it's a conscious.
It's not at all. It's not at all.
Biology, right?
Well, like I say, all of us. I think men and women, we're kind of inherently selfish. We want to get the best deal for ourselves out of life, and why not, right? Because we only live one life, and you kind of have to accept life as it is. But on another level, the other issue with it is, as James said, if you become very bitter and angry and misogynistic, that is also going to massively torpedo your dating life, because that comes across very, very clearly.
And it's the problem that a lot of guys have. They do
Yeah.
reams of theory, they read loads of red pill stuff, it makes them quite bitter, but they don't combine that with action taking. And they end
Yeah.
up with a very damaged, kind of warped sense of reality. And this applies now to this new school thing of black pill. You know, the world's going to the dogs. You sit there online, hating on everything, not taking action, and guess what? It's not going to help you in the long run.
Yeah. And we also see a lot of very sort of dark misogyny in this space, but we also see a lot of very like casual racism. And I mean, again, it's like that's inherently wrong in itself, but also
neither of us are racist, right? So I mean, just on an inherent level, we disagree with it. But just in terms of actually applicability to this space, what relevance is it?
It's got zero relevance. It's got zero relevance at all. And yet, and I think we've got another point where we'll talk about a bit more about this stuff, but people will bring it in casually as if, oh, you're in this space, so therefore that's how you're meant to think. That's how you're meant to view other people of different, ethnic backgrounds or whatever. And it's like, well, sorry, no, I just came into this because I wanted to have a good time and meet some cool girls. Like it's got absolutely nothing to do with dating and game.
Well, we were both we are both big fans of Hearty stuff, but something that we don't agree with on that is the fact it went all kind of ranting, raving about Trump and white, supremacy and all this stuff. And it's just like, what relevance has that got? With the game stuff, when he was doing that, was amazing. Yeah. And then he moved away from that. It's like, come on, what's going on there?
You get these people ranting and raving about this stuff, and it brings the whole industry into disrepute as well, right? Because then people looking at it from the outside go, well, these guys are weirdos anyway. Because remember that male advice is kind of hated on anyway by the mainstream, and then you've got these dudes who are just conflating it with overt racism, and that just makes the whole thing incredibly toxic, and it does nobody any favors. And fundamentally, why bring that stuff into this space anyway when it's got absolutely damn all to do with it? It's really mystifying.
It's very strange. It's very strange, isn't it?
So what's the next one?
The next one on the list is... Well, is there anything to touch about? I mean, racism just obvious, isn't it? But is there anything else to touch on the misogyny part? I just want to re-emphasize to guys that I've been through phases of kind of having a lot of business towards women. And this isn't virtual signaling. This is just saying women are women, men are men. It should be a win-win. You're going to get rejections. That's part of it. Don't hold it personally.
I think
don't bring in bitterness from one girl having cheated on you. If you eat a bad pizza, it doesn't put your pizzas for the rest of your life. You're going to get bad apples just as you get human beings, men who are bad apples as well. But I just want to make the point very clear to guys who are learning this stuff. If you're carrying like deep bitterness towards women or misogyny, it will backfire in terms of your results in this industry. So just think about it from a purely just stalking, selfish point of view. It's not us, trying to act holier than thou. It's just from my experience, I know that it torpedoes your results because women can just smell it. They're very perceptive. They have a sixth sense for this stuff. Right, so just be wary of that. Because
if you imagine the high value man who is pre-selected, and remember, we all want to demonstrate pre-selection because that's very attractive. Yeah. He's not going to be incredibly bitter about women because presumably his relationships with women will have been mainly favorable, right? So if you come across as being misogynistic, or angry or bitter or anything like that, then what you're really signaling is you're a low value male.
I agree.
That's fundamentally what you're signaling to any woman that you come into contact with. She's just going to go, all right, so this dude, he's angry, he's bitter, he must have been screwed over in the past, therefore he's a low value male.
Yeah, you can't hack it mentally.
Yeah. And like I say, you don't hate the the lion in the jungle for going after its prey. I mean, nature is nature, right? And
survival of the fittest.
The key thing with all of this stuff is accept the world on its own terms. It's not always nice. It's not always pretty.
Accept it for what it is and fucking make the most of it.
Yeah,
I'd
exactly.
try to understand the rules of the game and play that game than burying my head in the sand like a fucking ostrich. Next one on the list, 5. Conspiracy theories, politics. As you called it, extraneous bollocks.
Well, it's just a load of bollocks.
Nothing to do with the issue at hand.
It's just a load of bollocks. Like, why does everyone go on about...
Forget the vaccine shit. Forget whether, again, this is stuff you can talk about in your personal life, but in relation to this space,
it's got fuck all to do with it.
It's got nothing to do with it. So why are people talking about it?
Why are people talking about
Why are influencers? Why pick-up guys? Why dating
Dr.
guys?
Fauci, Trump, fucking Soros. It's got nothing to do with going out and meeting an attractive girl and going on a date with her. It's got nothing to do with it, and it's all BS. And you know, a lot of the time you interrogate some of these conspiracy theories a bit, and it's all based on sand anyway. People don't have a very robust idea of what they're saying. It just becomes fashionable to say something like you slag off masks or the vaccine online, and you get loads of clicks from other people because yeah, I agree. You know, drill down into it. What are they really saying? A lot of the time, it's not very robust. What their argument is.
How can I, so going back to the previous point of maybe carrying some bitterness, misogyny, how can I not get jaded from bad experiences, rejection, being abandoned? I mean, it is a question, right? How do you do it? Maybe you have to go through therapy. Maybe you have to, I don't know. Maybe you have to go out and prove that, you know, you can approach loads of women and you're going to get some positive experiences, right? But we all start getting into this with a lot of rejection because you don't know what you're doing and you have to learn to get better.
Go somewhere where your market value is higher and approach.
This is very prevalent. Sorry, how do you cope with a drunk hungover task? By the way, I am neither at the moment. I'm drinking a cold black coffee because I'm ranting rain. I've forgotten to drink it. Our ribs are getting cold on the side as well. Beautiful for ribs.
It's very hard, but it's a cross I have to bear.
This is a great comment. I wish we could universally agree that Red Pill isn't about race, politics, trans athletes, vaccines,
exactly,
theories, or trading crypto. Completely fucking agree. If I could reverse super chat, I would. Their side issues are usually not best not to be touched. They're getting away from the point. It's a very clever way of weaseling actually out of what you're supposed to be focusing on, isn't it? Most people in the Red Pill community don't even know what they like about women. The fact is, you experience the world through a screen. It's causing serious damage, irreparable damage in some cases. Yeah, and that's why we'd say, myself and Troy both say, stop watching our fucking content, go out and approach. And if you send us an email in a year going, I found a girlfriend, thank you for telling me to shut the fuck up and stop watching content, then we've succeeded. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, again, I mean, no judgments either way. I mean, this isn't saying you should get into a relationship or you should not have a girlfriend. You know, if you want to just play the field and be an eternal player, that's great as well. It's whatever you want to do. But all of this extraneous stuff, it's got nothing to do with it. And it's seeped into, it's seeped into the space over, particularly after 2016 and when Trump was elected and everyone started wearing red hats and stuff. All of this bollocks seeped into the space. I mean, the reason that I first came into contact with this content in the first place was just because I wanted to meet and date attractive girls, and it mystifies me why everyone's suddenly banging on about Fauci and, you know, the New World Order and all this kind of bollocks. I mean, it's got. If you're interested in that stuff, fine. There's other channels for that, but it should have nothing to do with your dating life. And if anything, it's just going to put you into a negative headspace, and it's going to wreck your chances.
Completely agree. We will do a part 2 because our flight is literally about to take off. Point 6. Living in the past, big egos, and thinking your game is the only method. There are many ways to skin a cat. Nobody has a monopoly on dating advice. I've met guys from all over this industry who get decent results, and they have completely different styles, completely different approaches. Yeah, so don't get caught into this guru fallacy of thinking this one guy's method is the best. Absolutely. Including us. But absolutely, with guys you resonate with, maybe you're going to cherry pick some of the stuff more often than not, you know, compared to anyone else. What I don't think you should necessarily do is follow 20 people, because again, you're just going to be watching too much theory, reading too much theory, you're not actually taking the action. But don't get caught up with this fallacy the other way, which is this guy's method is the best. If anyone else says anything other than that, it's fucking bullshit. It's just fucking bullshit.
It's like if you've got a guy who's like a day game guy, and then he's saying, "Oh, this bloke is a fraud because he does Instagram game and he's got, you know, cool cars on his Instagram and he looks like he's spending money. This guy is therefore a fraud." Very likely the Instagram dude is also getting lots of success. You know, just because one person's method works for them, it doesn't mean that all other methods don't work. Everybody has their own style with this stuff. And again, live and let live, right? You know, there are people who like day game, there are people who like night game, there are people who like Tinder game, stuff like that. I mean, whatever works for you, all right? But don't fall into that guru mentality and just follow this one person or one or two people and just think that their way is the only way. We are about to miss a flight to Moscow live on stream.
This is a disaster.
Why is it?
Well, no, I don't want to actually miss it.
Okay, should we?
Look at it. It's the last of the queue.
Submission muzzle at the ready to get on the flight. So this is unbelievable, right? We're being thrown out the restaurant. The queue is nearly gone. We're going to miss this flight to Moscow, and Tusk is getting an Instagram now. Tusk is actually Instagram closing the waitress as we speak, and we're just about to miss our flight to Moscow. This is an incredible dedication to the game that you can see happening right now, and this is what we're talking about, really. You know, you need to be in the game. You need to be taking action. You need to be putting your money where your mouth is. Right. Okay. Let's go and.
Yeah, we'll do part 2 when we land in Moscow.
Let's go and miss this flight.
And we'll clear up any questions. Is there a way of pausing the stream and then we're actually going to...
Just close it.